What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to the brother Brendan Olson for the $10 donation via the Cash App. Much respect to him for showing love to Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is a question I want to ask you guys. I want you guys to give your opinions in the comment section of this particular video. And that is, who do you think is the best player in NBA history to never actually win the MVP award? Because there are a lot of different candidates, I think, that pop up for that discussion. The first guy that pops to mind is Jerry West. Jerry West, in my opinion, the third greatest shooting guard. I know he was mostly listed as a point guard, but I tend to think of him as a shooting guard. I don't think he qualifies as a point guard, really. But if you look at him as a shooting guard, I think he's the third greatest shooting guard of all time behind Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Won a scoring title, won a championship, appeared in 9 NBA Finals in a 14-year career, 25,000 career points, 27 points per game scoring average, 29 point per game scoring average in the playoffs. I believe he's the only player, or one of the few players, I should say, in NBA history to average 40 points per game in a playoff run. And holds the record for the highest scoring average for a playoff series. I think it was 1965 divisional series against the then Baltimore Bullets when he averaged 46.3, I think it was, points per game. Then you, of course, you have John Havlicek. Started his career as the sixth man for the Boston Celtics, became a starter in the late 60s. Led the Boston Celtics to 2 additional titles in the 70s after winning 6 in the 1960s. 8-0 in the NBA Finals. All-time leading scorer for the Boston Celtics. Was a man of so many different talents. He could score, he could rebound, he could distribute, play defense, could shoot. So many different skill sets. Energize a bunny on the floor. Then, of course, you have Elgin Baylor. Never won an MVP award. One of the big scorers of all time. 27.4 points per game scoring average, one of the greatest scorers. And did that without a three-point line. Holds the record for most points in a game in the finals. Former record holder for most points in a playoff game, period. One of the great scorers. And this is a man who's signing and play, unbeknownst to many Laker fans, or some Faker fans, saved the Los Angeles Lakers franchise from folding back in the late 1950s. But there's another guy I think that should be in this conversation, and it's Kawhi Leonard. I know Kawhi Leonard has his detractors, and he's not a very popular guy right now when it comes to a lot of basketball fans. We see him as a prima donna, a guy collecting checks while he's injured, and possibly on the downside of his career. Even though he's not really old. I think he's only 33 years old. However, when you look at his resume, he definitely has a case. He's a 2-time NBA champion. One championship with the Spurs, one with the Toronto Raptors. He's a 2-time Finals MVP. Won an award in 2014, and then again in 2019. He's a 6-time NBA All-Star. He was the All-Star Game MVP back in 2020. He's 3 times All-NBA First Team, 3 times All-NBA Second Team, 3 times NBA All-Defensive First Team, 4 times NBA All-Defensive Second Team. So that's 7 All-Defensive teams he's a part of. Most impressively, he's a 2-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year winner. Led the NBA steals back in 2015. Was on the NBA All-Rookie First Team in 2012. Considered one of the 75 greatest basketball players of all time. AP Athlete of the Year back in 2019. For his career, he's appeared in 696 games, averages 20 points per game. For his career, 6.4 rebounds, 3 assists per game. For his career, he's a 49.9% shooter, a 39.1% three-point shooter, and an 86.2% free throw shooter. His career effective field goal percentage is 55.3, and he has a career PR rating of 23.4, which puts him in high-level all-star, superstar level as far as PR rating. And what goes against his PR rating is his lesser role with the Spurs when he was younger. As a matter of fact, since he became an all-star, which was back in 2015, I believe, if you go back to that metric, his numbers look better. His per game averages look better. 24.4 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.7 steals, 0.7 blocks, 49.9% shooting from the floor, 39.8% from downtown, 87.5% from the free throw line. And when you look at his PER rating from 2015 to 2016, it jumps up to 25.7, which would be one of the highest PER ratings of all time. So when you look at his play in his prime, he was probably the best two-way player in the game. Perhaps the best perimeter defender in his prime. There was a period of time also when he was playing his highest level that he essentially owned LeBron James. Wasn't it a stretch where his teams had beat LeBron like 11 or 12 consecutive games? So this is a guy that played at a high level when healthy against top-tier teams. And then he did something that was very admirable. He had a situation where the San Antonio Spurs traded him to the Toronto Raptors, which was a team that he did not really want to be on. He didn't want to be on that team. He joins this team. Now, granted, they were a good team without him. But he made them a championship level team. And that playoff run back in 2019, remember, they played an Orlando Magic team that after the All-Star break, remember, serves me correctly, in 2018-19 season, after the All-Star break, they had the number one defensive rating in the NBA, even though they were an 8th seed. They were a tough out. Then the next round, they play a Sixers team, if I'm not mistaken, that had Ben Simmons and Jimmy Butler. And he hits the series-winning and championship-winning shot for the Raptors, which was payback, I guess you could say, for that epic series that the Sixers and Raptors had some 18 years earlier when Vince Carter missed what would have been a series-winning shot, a turnaround jumper at the buzzer, Game 7. This time, as fortune would have it, luck was on the Raptors side, and he hits the biggest shot in their franchise history. Then the next round, trying to remember who they played in the next round. Who they play in the conference finals? I'm slipping. Who in the world did they play? I actually have forgotten who they played. Oh, damn it. They played the Bucks. That's right. They played the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, beating them in 6 games. And then in the finals, they beat the Warriors. Now, they didn't have KD from just about all that series. They lost Klay Thompson down the stretch. I get all of that. But they still beat the Warriors. And he did it while essentially limping. You know what I'm saying? He did it while playing hurt. And that was admirable. Now, I know a lot of the stuff that's come since then have turned people off on Kawhi Leonard. But when you look at his actual level of play when healthy, remember, this was the guy that was being compared as far as his game to at least the older Michael Jordan. He's being compared. And the comparisons were not really hyperbole at that time. Had he stayed healthy, and if Kawhi Leonard had, saying that motor, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, he has the motor, but he doesn't have, Kobe and Mike's explosiveness, especially Mike. But, and he also doesn't seem to have, as fame and riches have come, I sometimes wonder if it tainted or toned down or dampened some of his drive. Because, don't get me wrong, when he's healthy, when there's motivation, like getting that contract extension, he's phenomenal. But then after the contract extension, then he kind of rests on his laurels, and then, it's whatever with this guy. I get that. But from an absolute ability standpoint and from what he has accomplished, I think he's in the conversation for the best NBA player, especially from a talent perspective, never to win the MVP award. You know what I mean? But tell me what you guys think about that. Do you think that Kawhi Leonard is the best player to never win an MVP award? Because there are other guys out there, you know what I'm saying? There's other guys that are in this conversation.